Hello, Lou. Thank you so much for being here, for accepting to be a guest in our interview series. I am so glad to meet you online and to get the chance to discover a little bit who you are in depth today. And I hope we will have a relaxed and insightful conversation. And for you, our listeners, if you take some insights, some habits, some good points from this discussion, please click the link in the description and donate a small amount of money to the Hospital of Romania, which are in need now. And for starting and getting right into our interview, I challenge you, Lou, to say in 30 seconds who you are and what you do.
Oh, that is a nice challenge. First, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. So who I am and what I do.
It's my pleasure.
Full transparency, I am discovering that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And as I'm here to learn more about myself and what I bring to the world, then I keep growing myself in order to bring that to the world to impact as many people as I can, to help them remember who they really are and what they're capable of.
How did you turn into this? Was this something that you really wanted to do from being young or a child, or when did you discover that you wanted to do that?
Great question. I would definitely say early on, but it didn't get nurtured until later on. As most people growing up on the planet, we get caught up into the day-to-day life, and then assume that the patterns that we're in or what our life is and what it's supposed to look like, because somebody downloaded it to us. And I've had a number of experiences early on that started to crack open that thinking or that paradigm to say, no, it doesn't have to be that way. And so I then made it a lifelong journey to keep studying that process. So that's why I'm very curious. I like to learn and grow and challenge myself to keep understanding where my perceived limitations are, so I can then move through those. And as I do that, I can serve others in the same way to help them remember what's possible versus what we've bought into about what's not possible.
What was it a moment in your life when you felt the opposite, when you felt that it was not possible for you, when you felt constrained?
Oh yeah, there was plenty of moments. Those moments were actually years long, for sure, because I was experiencing things because of my own limitations that I wasn't aware of at the time. So it felt like it was reinforcement that indeed these things weren't possible for me. Levels of success, or the ability to make more money, or to have greater relationships, whatever that was, I would keep running into a ceiling, which would then at that time reinforce that, yep, see, that's all I'm supposed to get. And it was just my own limitations, which because of that, I kept attracting that was my limitation, and which reinforced the fact, yep, that's all you're supposed to get. And then I finally broke through and realized that was just a story that I was telling myself and playing out into it. And since investing the last 37 years of my life making this my purpose to keep studying and growing, I realized that's true for every single person on the planet.
So if I ask you, how did you break the code?
How did I break the code?
Did you actually, how did you overcome it by real actions?
Great question, very appropriate question. And I would really support your listeners to be smarter than I was, because of my resistance and thick-headedness. I needed to literally be broken. So it was funny that you said, how did you break through that code? I needed to be broken multiple times before I started to awaken into that next step. And what I mean by that is I found myself once again sitting in a hospital room with a broken pelvis going, this is not fun anymore. And I started to ask those eternal questions like, okay, hold on a second. At that time, I was a high-level athlete. So I was doing good in one part of my world, and in other parts of my world, I was sabotaging. Um, and I'm sitting here after being hit. I was on a motorcycle, got hit. The motorcycle flipped over the car, landed on me, broke my pelvis. They whisked me off, and I'm laying there going, all right, this is not good. But this wasn't the first time I had been broken. I was in a previous wreck and broke my spine. So I'm a slow learner, or I was a slow learner. I'm a fast learner now. And
You're
so
a
in that
risk
moment,
taker.
yeah, right. So sitting there in that bed going, there's got to be more to life than this. This is not fun. This can't be what life is all about. And in that moment, I woke up from what I call victim consciousness. And I took ownership of my life. Because prior to that, like even in that scenario, when I was in that motorcycle wreck, the person who hit me was given a ticket, which reinforced it wasn't my fault, that I was a victim. And it's not about fault, but it was about, I actually, the way I see it now is I actually attracted that experience into my life because I was not on my purpose. I was off purpose, and life was helping me get back on purpose. So that's what I meant by sharing with your listeners is the more subtle you listen to the signs, the less traumatic it has to be in your life. I wasn't listening. If anything, I was resisting. So I needed to be laid out to have life have a conversation with me and say, hey, little boy, how about waking up now and remember what you're here to do? And so in that wake up to go, oh, I'm not a victim. But when I was a victim, I was blaming life. I was blaming other people for the things that weren't going right in my life. I'd like to take credit for the things that did, but I definitely blamed when it wasn't going right. And so when I awoken from that process and I took ownership of my life to live a conscious life and not a victim life, I realized that I'm fully responsible for everything that shows up in my life. And now I get to choose on what the things that I would like to show up in my life.
So, what do you choose to do, which really gives meaning to your life now?
Beautiful. It's to continue to actually help people do the same. So in order to, which I still do to this day, I've been blessed to literally travel the entire globe, going to study from the best, the shamans in South America, the monks in Tibet, the people that understand neuropsychology, neurophysiology. And I've literally been doing deep dive studies for over 37 years up to this point, and I'm going to continue throughout this lifetime. That's to improve my own life first and foremost. Yet the benefit of that, or the offshoot of that, is so I can be a better service to the people that I serve. The students that I teach, the clients, when I travel. In just a few weeks, we'll take a group of people out into the Caribbean Sea on a catamaran, swimming with wild dolphins, doing breath work and other types of personal development exercises to help them elevate their understanding of who they are and what they're capable to bring to the world. And so that's my mission in life is if people would embrace the fact that they're the driver, not the vehicle, meaning they're not their physical body. We are not just the sum of our parts, right? We're more than the sum of our parts. There's something special inside, and that's who we are. And the more we embrace that, then the greater things that we can do in our life. And that's my purpose and mission in life.
Beautiful. I want to know more about that breathing with dolphins exercise. How it's like? What do you guide people to do?
Well, so one of the biggest things that the reason we work with, so we also do trips with humpback whales. And so whales and dolphins are in a species or a family called the cetaceans. And there's so many amazing things about this sentient group of beings, the cetaceans. But one of the greatest things that they teach us is in that family, whales and dolphins, they're what we refer to as conscious breathers or voluntary breathers, meaning they do not have the inability to not take a breath. As human beings, we have both options, involuntary or voluntary, or unconscious or conscious. And unfortunately, most people are involuntary and unconscious breathers, which for me, they're really just having a biological breath, enough to keep them existing on the planet. the dolphins and whales literally have to choose every single breath. So if they don't choose the next inhale, they die. And by having to choose every single breath, so literally at night, they turn off half the brain and the other side's on to keep breathing. And then they switch hemispheres. But the point is, by choosing each breath, it keeps them right here and right now, every moment of their entire existence. They're fully present. And what causes most people to suffer is we spend time in the past or the future. Most of our time in the past or the future, which is not here now, the only true moment that exists. And when we let our breath go unconscious, that's what allows us to go into past or future, fear or guilt. When we choose to participate more voluntary or more volitionally or more conscious in our breathing, it brings us here now. Just on a regular daily practice. The breath work can be done in so many different ways. For free diving, so like when we dive down with them, the longer you can hold your breath, the longer you can stay engaged with the dolphins. But breath work, various forms of breath work, allow us to heal because it goes past the mind where a lot of our traumas were created in the first place. It supersedes the mind and just activates the physiology to release traumas, wounds, and things that we've been carrying in that are part of what limit us from going forward. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and it's very nice to tie the breathing to the consciousness and the state of presence. It's like in meditation when you focus on breathing and you let everything else going away and stay silent. You and only you. But what I wanted to ask you is, do you also have some breathing tips for making people more open and more confident when they want to speak up on stage, when they want to connect with their audience, maybe?
Beautiful. Yes. So that's the magic of the use of breath. We can use breath in so many different ways. We can use it to calm ourselves down. We can use it to focus. We can use it to energize. And that's the beauty of learning how to use the power of breath to change your physiology. So when people are anxious, if there's a certain breathing to slow down the exhale, and it literally, you can prove this with a pulse oximeter, right? You put something on your finger that measures heart rate and pulse rate. And by changing your breathing patterns, you can actually watch all the numbers come down. So the blood pressure reduces, the heart rate reduces, respiration calms down. Vice versa. If I want to elevate all of that, I can then jumpstart that process to drive energy, to be more passionate and excited if I was going to make a presentation, to create clarity and focus. So yeah, there's definitely ways to activate the breathing cycle in order to do that.
What subjects are for you that matter so much that your heart beats faster? What is your area of passion and of pure interest?
So thank you. That's the topic. For me, that would be a topic, because then there's subtopics of how I get there. But that topic is, how do I keep this experiencing my true nature? Which is an unlimited process. And again, I say that for me, but the topic is, so as a healing practitioner, that's one of the reasons I initially went around the world to study and learn, is I know that we are capable of healing from anything at the highest levels. And that's not just a thought. I've been a part of healings that were not supposed to happen, things that are called miracles. Watching people paralyzed get up and walk. I've been a part of serving them when they've had spinal cord injuries and they were told they'd never walk again, and now they're completely walking and they have children and things they were never supposed to do. Women that were told they could never conceive, having babies, all kinds of amazing things, because it's what we're capable of. And what I wanted to know was, how can I access this healing force even greater? And that's what inspires me, because it's this pure potential that we all have. all living beings had it, plants, animals, cats, dogs, humans. And I wanted to know, how can I access this force to help it come out and play better? So that's what really drives me, to serve people to access that. And then, as much as teach people how they can also access it themselves. And if they need a practitioner to help them access it at higher levels, then which are the appropriate practitioners to go access? But ultimately, that's what moves me the most. So what is this source? How do I access it? How do we as people access it? To bring it forth, to change how we show up in this world. For instance, right now, my clients, none of them were afraid during this pandemic experience, because they knew they weren't going to be affected or sick by a virus, because they're not a victim of the universe. They have total control over their physiology. Therefore, they had no fear during this entire time. None. And so that comes from the place of knowing who we are and what we're capable of, which is stronger than any virus that would ever enter your physiology.
And
as an example,
when you work with someone who is not a healer, let's say, how can you make him aware of his own abilities, and how can he use this in the daily life, day by day life?
Yeah, beautiful. First of all, I would, for me, I would clarify that all people are healers. Now, it might not be their profession, but all people are healers, right? So if we simply, like, if you were to cut yourself, you didn't have to go to school. It heals itself. Mm-hmm. How does it do that, right? We just take it for granted that, hey, if I didn't have that ability, that wound would stay open, all my blood would leak out, and I would die. Thank goodness that doesn't happen. As soon as it gets cut, instant processes go right into play to seal the wound, heal it, and to the point where a couple weeks later, I don't even know where I cut myself. It's like magic, right? And that force is the healing force, and that's inside of every single one. And we don't have to, like, how does a baby know how to take its mother's milk and generate new brain cells, new kidney cells? How does it know how to use its kidneys, right? It never went to school. It's a baby, because there's this beautiful intelligence inside that is really the baby. That is me, that is you. And so my job is just to support any layperson to remember that. Right? That's back to my tenet, which is when people remember that they're the driver of this thing, not this thing, that they're the, whatever you want to call that, the intelligence within, the inner nature, the God force within, that's up to people. But the wisdom within, not the physicality. Mm-hmm. When they start to embrace that, however, whatever terms they want to put on it, it helps them understand that, wow, just like when people say, well, my mind is going crazy. Okay, well, if your mind is going crazy, then you are not your mind, right? That means you're something bigger than your mind. Oh, like the people say it with their own words. It's to get them to really start to hold that truth as not just words, but an understanding to live into. Well, hold on, if I'm not my mind, who am I? Oh, that means I get to control my mind or let it control me. And we know that the mind is a great tool, but it's a really poor master.
So how do you work with people? You make them conscious, activating their healing abilities and that intelligence inside?
Yes, because for me, having a doctorate degree, unfortunately, I've watched so many people turn over their life and their health to the doctor. Like, hey, doctor, fix me. That's a passive experience. And I have, as the patient, I have no part to play. I'm just there, and I hope you fix it. And if you fix it, I get to enjoy the benefit of it. But if you don't, I still suffer. And I never participated in that process, because really doctor just means teacher. It's not, they're not gods. They just have a skill set to help people. And my entire perspective is the healing forces in the people that I serve. How do I get that to come out and play? But even better, how do I get them involved in the process so they can now take ownership over their life and their healing capabilities? Because the more they do that, the less they rely on somebody outside of themselves. Not that we don't need support, but I can't get well unless somebody else fixes me. That's nonsense. So when people realize I heal myself, great. Do I need some support now and then? Of course, but it's still up to me. right? So when simple things like when people, if it's their first time in this journey, let's say somebody breaks a bone, they break a leg, and I ask them, well, when the doctor puts the cast on, what does the healing? The cast? No, of course not. You do. You didn't know how to. You didn't set up at night necessarily thinking about it, but your body healed the broken bone. The only point of the cast was to keep the pieces close together so it could heal easier, right? And so just remembering simple processes that they already go through to remind them, oh, indeed, yes, I do have these capabilities. And so the more they embrace that, the more they become aware of it, as you said, awareness is consciousness, consciousness is awareness. Then if they're willing to, the more they can start to take that ownership and back and say, wow, I'm actually pretty darn good. I'm look what I can do to my own body.
How do you spend a day in your life? Maybe not in quarantine now, but before. I saw you have so many things in your professional bio. How do you join them, and how do you mix them and use them separately or together and enjoying them?
Thanks. And actually, I was blessed to be in quarantine. I would be in lockdown the entire time. Anyways, I'll leave that as a separate discussion. So back to your question. How do I integrate the things that I do in my life? So even my passionate obsessions or hobbies, free diving. When I free dive, which is for those people who don't know, so it's scuba without a scuba tank. It's a single breath, and you dive down into the ocean. And some people do it in competition, how far they can go or how long they can hold their breath. In this case, we'll go out and swim with dolphins or whales. And so when I can keep working on that, it does everything that I've been talking about. When we can learn, especially so free diving is breath holding underwater. And right now I can hold my breath for 4.5 minutes. I work with teachers who can hold them for 8 minutes, 10 minutes. Science says you're not supposed to be able to hold it for more than 3 to 5 before you have brain damage. Mm-hmm. And so we're going past, right? We're going past what they say is
proving them wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so back to, here's a limitation coming from science, right? Oh, I'm not supposed to be able to do that. What if we did? Oh no, we just opened up a whole, right? So that's what I like doing, is keep pushing the envelopes of the limitations. So free diving does that. It's, as you mentioned, meditation. The greatest, one of the greatest gifts of free diving in the place of personal development is the power of what it does in the mind. Because in order to keep holding your breath, which you're fighting the greatest urge of life, which is to breathe. In order to stay calm and present and continue to hold your breath after your brain's going, breathe, silly, breathe. But to stay present and stay in that place, in a calm place, that changes everything. It changes your mindset. It changes your physiology. It improves all kinds of yummy stuff. When I go skydiving, so I'm a skydive instructor, I love teaching my students, one, to get over fears, two, the joy of body flight, that remembrance of freedom, going out and flying in the sky with other people, and coming together and holding hands at 180 miles an hour is a rush. It's a joy. It's just it does something to the heart, the soul, and definitely the physiology. And so those are my passionate obsessions. Scuba diving, and the world is 3/4 water, and most people have never been under it to see what's there, right? There's more life under the planet than there is on top of it. And I love to explore. I love to explore cultures. I love to explore new environments, so I can keep learning about life, about me, so that I can serve people at a better place.
Wow. Beautiful hobbies, beautiful ways of helping people to overcome fear. How did do you remember your first time when you skydived? How did you feel then? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, so the very first skydive, as soon as the door opens of the plane, which I can say now as an instructor, still happens for most people. The door opens, no matter how calm you were on the plane, as soon as that door opens, everything changes, because your mind's going, what in the heck are you doing? And so it definitely brings up fear because you're about to leave an airplane miles above the earth and the brain's going, this is not smart. You shouldn't be doing this. But as soon as you leave, literally within just a second. So most people have, as I did too, most people have the misunderstanding of skydiving. Like when you jump out and you're falling, you have that gut wrenching feeling like in a roller coaster, the butterflies. And they're like, I couldn't do that for 60 seconds going, because it wouldn't be fun. You don't have that because as soon as you leave, you were going 100 miles an hour in an airplane. As soon as you step out, you're in air resistance at that speed. So you never feel like you're falling. You feel like you're supported the entire way down. And so as soon as the person leaves, like when I did, I left the plane going, and then the second was, it went from fear to elation in literally 1 second because you feel the support and the panic goes away. And now it's just unbelievable. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm flying through the air. And then when the parachute opens, that's when the second round of prayers come in. Thank God, thank God, thank God. Because it's 2 rides in one, the free fall and then the parachute ride, which is really slow. And then your brain gets to slow down and you get to take in the sights. And just as soon as I landed, after jumping and screaming and having joy, I was like, how do we do this again? And that's when I just wanted to start learning because that was so incredible. So this is the beauty is most people think as I did, skydiving is you jump, scream, land, scream, and then you check it off a list and go on. You could do that as a bucket list. But for me, it's like any other art form. It's a process of mastery. There's so many different things within skydiving, like body flight. How can I fly around the sky with just my own body or with a wingsuit? How can I get better under the parachute? There's so many different things to keep improving in. I could spend my entire life just doing that and never achieve a plateau because there's so much to keep growing into. So.
And what was your greatest experience in skydiving now that you are experienced and mastering it?
Wow. So I've had a bunch that are just actually a bunch. I was blessed a couple of years ago to be a part of history in the making. We were allowed, for the first people in human history, we were allowed to jump over the Great Pyramids of Egypt and land right next to them. They don't even let their military do that. And there was 60 world-class skydivers, and I happened to be in the group. And we got to leave at 15,000 feet, jump out, fly, and land right next to the pyramids. And we got to do that on 3 separate days. And then they let us go inside and tour the internal parts of the pyramids and the chambers. So that was incredible. I've been blessed to jump on 6 of the 7 continents. I've been on all 7, but I haven't skydived in Antarctica yet, even though I've been there. So I have to go back to jump. Then I have that. And I also did what's called a halo jump. That means that, so imagine if you're flying internationally and the plane's at 30,000 feet and the pilot says we're at a cruising altitude, and you open the door and get out. So at that point, the air's so thin, you have to wear an oxygen tank. Normal sport skydiving is under 14,000 feet. I don't know like under 4,000 meters or 5,000 meters. And this was 30,000 feet. So it's over 10,000 meters. And I've been a part of some record formations where we fly together and create formations, and we created some state records. So I've been blessed to have some amazing opportunities in skydive so far, and I look forward to having even more.
Wow, beautiful. I think you had some moments when you were in accidents, when you had your spine accident. How did you get back to doing this kind of crazy stuff that are also so rewarding?
So this is a beautiful part of my personal and professional journey. The first time I attracted a significant trauma, I wasn't aware of the tools that I'm aware of now because I hadn't started studying that yet. And I was being told all kinds of things by the experts at that time, what I could or couldn't do. And even though I didn't study anything quite yet, internally I knew everything they were saying to me it just didn't feel right. It didn't make sense to what I knew to be true inside of me. When I was a kid, I actually, I broke a leg when I was probably 10 years old, riding a motorcycle. And I couldn't play sports. And I really wanted to continue playing because I was in the middle of the sport year. And I don't think I had the cast on for more than a week. And I went out into the garage and cut it off with a saw. And my parents came out and saw that, and they were like really scared because I was using a regular saw that cuts wood, because I saw the TV shows where the doctors use a special saw. I didn't know the difference. I was a kid, and they were like, ah, they thought I was going to cut my leg off. Meaning I knew I wasn't supposed to be in the cast. Even though I broke it, I knew I needed motion for it to heal quicker. So I innately knew there was something different on how my body worked. So back to that time when I first hurt myself as an adult, then as I listened to what they were saying, I just went, no, no, thanks. And I even actually checked myself out of the hospital and started to do self-healing. And then once I started to really study and understand how the body works in neurology and physiology and healing principles, when I then broke my spine, I actually healed from a broken spine without a pain pill, without any surgery. And I had fractured 2 vertebrae in my spine. So again, it's not just talk or therapy. I have not only done it within myself, but I've served tens of thousands of people around the world to perform what are called miracles. But the miracle is accessing the power in each side of each person. We're capable of more than we've been taught to believe. That's the biggie, right? We are so much more capable than what we believe. And I believed in that. I bought into the story of the limitation. And once I awoke into that and saying, wow, I'm the one that's limited myself. Now I spend my life working on where is my next perceived limitation. So I constantly put myself in uncomfortable positions, be it speaking on a platform in front of a bunch of people, or jumping out of a plane or doing something else. I don't want to be comfortable. I choose to constantly.
You're getting lazy if you're comfortable.
I get lazy, right? Yeah,
comfort. Rewarded.
I'm not growing, right? I'm not growing if I do that for too long. And then, again, as I activate that, I do my best to inspire other people to do the same and remember, hey, remember, you've got more inside of you, kiddo. Come on, let that come out and play. So.
I want to ask you if someone is maybe in that quest of finding what he wants to do in his life, what his purpose is, and he has not reached that clarity yet. How can he dive into that greatness and really step into action in the area of his talents and his passion?
Oh, that's just such a beautiful question. And I as you would, I'm sure, I receive that a lot from people that we work with, but a great question. And I remember having that same question before I awoken into the possibilities as well. It's like, what is my purpose? Like, why am I here, right? It's a great question. So my response initially, if somebody's first beginning this journey, what moves you? Like you were asking me, what inspires me? So if you could do something and even if you were never paid for it, what would you keep doing? Like, is it your job right now? Would you do this job if you weren't being paid? Most people go, heck no, I'd quit in a heartbeat if I wasn't being paid. I know plenty of people that would say, of course, I would keep doing this even if I wasn't getting paid, because they love what they do, because it moves them, it moves their soul, it expands their heart. So I would ask anybody just to look at that. What moves you? What brings joy and excitement to you? Whatever that is. Teaching, right? Traveling, whatever that is. Playing sports. What is the thing that just brings you alive? And then whatever that is, how can you do that at a greater scale to be of service? Because usually whatever that is, it is about service of some sort. Like you're doing right now to your clients. You're going out and asking other experts in different fields to come share with your group. Why? Because you want to help the people that you serve change their life and move it to another level, right? And so because that's your passion or a part of your passion. And we've just met, so I don't know, but I'm guessing that's what I feel so far with the questions you're asking me. So for anybody that's watching this, what is that thing that just makes you go, oh, that you just love to do? Do that. There's an adage in the world of true freedom is when you discover what you love, do what you love what you do, you'll end up getting paid for it. Just think, because years ago, I jokingly say, I used to have a job and I hated it. because it was a job. It was work, meaning it was something I did to collect money to pay bills, but it was getting through a life and it just wasn't fun. And I knew that early on, this is not good for me. Then I learned about working with people and helping them do things and went, oh, I love doing this. I didn't care if I got paid, but because I became good at it, I got paid. And the better I got, the more I got paid. So it worked out like, this is crazy. I love what I do what I love. And as a bonus, they pay me for it. So the same for anybody listening. If you hear the mind going, oh no, but I could never make money at that. Absolutely nonsense. I know a woman who started an online course teaching people how to sew, or crochet. I think it's crochet. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, how much money could you make online teaching somebody? She makes over $1 million teaching people to crochet with online courses. So, once the mind's going, oh, there's no way, you've already put a limitation on it versus how can there be a way? Let's look for the way, right?
So getting proactive is a really great part of it. Spotting that area that really inspires you and gives you fire inside and enthusiasm is a really great part of it. How can we fight those beliefs and those maybe those tendencies of getting into the norm and into how other people will react, what they will say?
Now you're getting deeper. Okay, this is where I like to play. Excellent question as well. No, it really is, because this is the place where most people derail themselves, even when they were to discover, oh, I love painting, right? Oh, this is my passion. But everybody around me, my family says, well, I'm not good as a painter, or you'll never make money as painting, or whatever that is. If you let your environment interfere with your passion and mission, well, first of all, that's on you, right? That's back to being a victim. When we blame our environment, like what I did years ago, I'm playing victim. Oh, but people didn't want me to, or I was too small to play sports, or versus, hey, thanks you all for sharing your opinion. Cancel, clear. I love painting and I'm going to paint. If you don't like my painting, don't buy it. Don't even look at it. Move out of the way. I'm going to keep painting. And that's the conviction to have within, to be true to yourself. And we've, as people, have really violated that one, that being true to self, because we've been taught to be true to everybody else first. Take care of everybody else first. Then if there's something left, we can take care of ourselves. And as you've heard those metaphors a bunch of times, like being on an airplane, if the cabin pressurizes or depressurizes and you have to put on an oxygen mask, if you don't put it on you, you're not going to be around to take care of anybody else, right? So you got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. Learning to recommit to honor thyself. And by doing so, you'll be of greater service to everybody else. It's actually counterintuitive to what we've been taught. So tips and techniques to do that. I love the name of this series, the I Am series, because as you chose that term because it's the most powerful thing we could ever say to ourselves.
It was not my idea. I joined the project, but I loved it too.
Oh, well, great.
I resonated with it. So
excellent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And so here's the thing, that's something else that I teach with my clients is called conscious languaging, kind of like conscious breathing. Most people use words and statements, but they don't pay attention to them and they work against themselves. So here's the biggest tip, is for people to start learning to be conscious of what they say, because it reflects the state of mind that they're living in, or the state of being that they're expressing. And one of the most powerful and profound ways to start shifting that is to notice and then go, wow, is that statement congruent to who I choose to be or am becoming? It is, great, keep using it. It's not, be willing to change it. So again, I am is powerful either way we use it. I am no good is really powerful, just in a negative context. Mm-hmm. I am amazing is powerful, but in a positive context. I am, blah, blah, blah. So we have to be mindful of what it is we're saying, because it shows the state of mind. And if people were just to take an hour of a day and just periodically pay attention to what comes out. Most of it's in the negative framing. I can't, that's not possible, versus taking the moment to reframe that. How is it possible? How could I? And then what we call moving up scale, using the verbiage or vocabulary that moves us in the direction of what we're after, right? I can't is probably one of the most horrible words in language, or in the English language anyways, whatever, like, however we translate that into any other language, because it's literally back to the I am. I cannot. I've just told myself, because it's listening, that's impossible for me. And the more we say it to ourselves, the more we believe it. And then we keep putting limitations on self, versus from I can't to I will, to I can, to I am, right? Those are upscaling processes of changing our thinking, which our physiology has to follow suit. And then we start living into those new levels of being. Am I articulating in a way that makes sense?
Yes. I'm just wondering, when you work with someone in that area of making him more true to himself and more authentic, do you have a different method maybe for kids, or do you think education and our system of education has an impact on not allowing us to become that true self and authentic person?
Yeah, unfortunately, so from my place in pure transparency and vulnerability, I believe the large part of the educational systems is it's not only, it doesn't expand it, it's unfortunately set up to keep it contained. So people do not remember the power of who they are, because it allows governments and industries to manage and control people better when they don't realize how strong and powerful they are, right? If everybody were that strong, then the governments couldn't manipulate people as much as they do, or industries at large, whatever that may be. And this is factual, right? It's not conspiracy theory. Versus there are subsets of various schools like in the US or even around the world, like what they're called the Waldorf schools. These are schools that really take kids and they don't teach them to memorize and regurg. They teach them critical thinking, right? How to understand. They teach them multiple languages. Like in the US, we don't get exposed to a second language until we're in high school, where we're already brain dead and the window for language is locked down. Versus Europe, you're exposed to multiple languages right off the bat. And that opens up different, creativities and awarenesses. Anyhow, so yes, with children, especially the younger they are, the more connected to the source of truth that they are. So that's the greatest group to work with, because they remember. The longer they're on the planet, because of society's teachings, it starts to squash the magic out of them. And it puts them in a, hence the rebellious years of teenagers, right? Why do most teenagers rebel? Because they've been squashed. They know that they've been told, don't, you can't. And that part goes, stop it. And they rebel because they want to be free again, free to express themselves. So what if, as a society, a human society, we continue to support children from the moment they showed up on the planet, from that day forward, into expressing their capabilities? Wouldn't that be delicious? And what a different species we'd have.
It would look in a great creative puzzle, very different from this image. Lou, it was such a pleasure to have you here. What are you most grateful for in your life right now?
This day, the fact that I got up on this side of the grass, and that I have access to all of my parts and their workings, my health, my ability to be present, my ability to love and be loved, and the fact that I've been given another day to do something beautiful with.
That is that is very conscious and very beautiful and very living in the moment. Thank you so much. And now for reaching our finish line with this interview, I just ask you to complete one word after I am. Me, Lou, I am.
I am love.
Thank you. It's been lovely to have you here. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much. And let's stay in touch. Let's. I will give our listeners the chance to reach your site, your book, and to maybe go in depth with what you are contributing to teaching and to help people grow and become conscious and step into their greatness. Thank you so much.
It's an honor and a privilege. And in closing, Raluca, thank you so much for the opportunity to be of service. I appreciate your trust in allowing me to share with your the people you serve. And I acknowledge you for what you're bringing to your people and to the world. And thank you for doing that. The more beauty we can keep showing each other, the more love we can bring on the planet. And love is the only thing that's going to change what's happening on the planet right now. It's the only force greater than the fear and the hatred that's happening. And so as people, when we really reconnect to the truth of who we are, the actions that we do to each other as humans would be incomprehensible. It would literally be impossible to harm or treat anybody else in such a yucky way. We only do that when we forget who we are. So thank you for bringing these gifts to your people. It's been an honor and a privilege. And until we connect again, abundant blessings.
Thank you.
Namaste.